indie sci-fi movie that feels part Matrix, part Inception, but is wonderful on its own. Let's talk about Levels. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Pass. I'm here to talk about Levels, which is coming to theaters, digital, and on demand on November 1st, 2024. It's a new indie sci-fi film that feels like it has a little bit of the Matrix, a little bit of Inception, a little bit of some other online type movies, but it's its own wonderful experience. I really love this. I was very surprised by this film. I didn't know what to expect going in, but I enjoyed this thoroughly. My hot take is I think you should watch it. It is just a well done, entertaining indie sci-fi film with an interesting story, a great opening, a really good setting, and a smart use of special effects that makes this feel like a movie that kind of punches above its weight. So I definitely think you should watch it. I really, really like this. Had no idea what to expect, and I was definitely left with a smile. So I'm gonna tell you a little about the movie, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises. There's some pretty big surprises in this movie, some things you probably didn't expect. So I would turn it off when they get to the recap section. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Levels, you have Joe who works at a bookstore. He's kind of an unassuming person, but he meets this intriguing person named Ash, and they start a relationship. But very early on, something happens that causes them to question the relationship and the nature of their entire universe. So things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the opening. It's a really good opening. It kind of takes its time to let you get to know these characters, and then also starts with a bang. It really gets you vested into this movie and gets you kind of like, it grabs you right from the start. The second thing I loved the story. I thought it has like a nice take. It has like an interesting mix of romance and action. It doesn't go too fast. It has some interesting concepts. Overall, I just thought it was a really intriguing, fun story with some fun characters, and kind of kept me entertained and also kept me guessing a little bit. The third thing I love the setting. I love when movies do this, when it's like it's like a near future. It's modern, but not like crazy over the top with special effects. So it doesn't look bad. It looks fantastic. It looks like, the special effects just kind of augment the world around it. So it feels almost timeless. Like similar movies like Gattaca also feel kind of timeless. Like they use a kind of near future modern look so that even now, like Gattaca holds up. I feel like this movie has a similar feel. It doesn't overdo the special effects. It kind of sets itself in the near future, which means that it looks fantastic. And the last thing I love, kind of talked about it, special effects. I thought I had a great use of special effects for an indie film. The director has done a ton of special effects work in his past, and you can tell that he knows what to do. He knew how to like stretch the budget, smart uses of technology, smart uses of effects to kind of like augment what was already there and not stand out, not look bad. Like it looks fantastic. So all that being said, there really wasn't anything I didn't love. I really like this movie. I was very surprised that I really like this movie. So I definitely think you should check out Levels. It's coming to theaters, digital, and on demand on November 1st, 2024. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So this movie starts with Joe, who kind of runs a bookshop, and Ash, who is just kind of like a random customer. She comes in, they hit it off, and they go have coffee. And this starts a nice little relationship. They get to know each other. But early on, some strange person who seems to just kind of like be above everything comes and just like shoots Ash in the face randomly. And Joe is devastated, as you'd imagine. And so he kind of goes into a downward spiral. He goes into a depression. Eventually, he buys a gun. Apparently, you can just buy a gun on whatever the equivalent of Amazon is in this world. It gets delivered to him, and he gets ready to kill himself. And when he goes to kill himself, he pulls the trigger and it misfires. Like the pin hits, but no bullet. So he tries again, does it again. He shoots like a wall, it goes off, and then he tries again and he isn't able to do it. So eventually, because it's not shooting him, he shoots a window out and tries to jump out the window. And when he's doing this, he starts to fall, but everything kind of like slows down, and he hears Ash's voice yell, "Joe." And everything time like stops. It looks around. It's like a nice effect where you can see like the glass in the air and Joe just like kind of hovering in free fall but not falling anywhere. And then he wakes up back in his apartment, back in his life, and he has messages from Ash, but he doesn't want to open them because Ash is dead. So he gets all these messages. He thinks it's like a glitch. He's not sure what to do. And so he goes to a friend that he has, a like close confidant, this person that runs this newsstand. And when he gets there, he watches this video from Ash, and Ash tells him that there is a special order at his bookstore that she ordered for him and that he needs to get it and that there's something waiting for him. So he goes to that bookstore, he goes to his bookstore, picks up the special order, opens it up, and it is a book. And when he opens this book, he feels like a jolt, like something like that. But you don't know what it is. You don't know what all is going on. So after all this strangeness, after Joe gets messages from Ash, he gets this special book. Some agent comes to try to take him out, and this person, follows him home. They go up in the elevator together, and Joe tries to like run into his apartment last minute, but that agent stops the door and kind of like shoots a couple times at the door. So then Joe and him have a little bit of a standoff. And then when Joe aims at this agent, like something takes over him and he like aims perfectly, shoots him right in the head, and moves on. So Joe tries to escape after he kills his agent, but another agent comes and fights him as well. Or they have a fight in the hallway. And when this is happening, Joe is moving fast. Like he's moving kind of like Matrix powers, essentially. So the agent will hit him, he'll like move. The agent tries to get an upgrade, gets a punch on Joe, but Joe eventually is able to overpower him and is able to escape. Now, when he gets back to his apartment, Ash calls him, and Ash like has a video call. So it's not a message, it's not like a text from the past. It's an actual video call from Ash. Even though she's dead, she's back on the screen. And she explains what all is happening. There were advances in computers that led to like advances in rendering, simulation, and AI that was first used for video games, but then was used for like defense contractors and think tanks and things like that. And eventually this person named Anthony Hunter, who was a software engineer who worked for this large corporation called Centec, he started dabbling in here too. Hunter grabbed data from the real world and then injected that into like a virtual environment. So he was trying to create his own like virtual world based on data from the real world. He wasn't able to do it, but then eventually he met up with another brilliant coder, this person named Oliver, who had similar interests and helped him kind of finish his design, finish his, they call it DU or digital universe. Now, with this information, with this kind of setup, he was able to simulate like anything. He could simulate wars, he could simulate weapons, he could simulate vaccines, things like that. And he had like a real world model, so you could very rapidly simulate the effects of things. And so because of this, they were able to gather a lot of data. He became the CEO of Centec, and he'd been able to simulate all these worlds before. And so Joe is coming to the realization that this world that he's in is one of those simulations. And Joe asks, like, how many simulations have there been? And Ash says 497 so far. So a lot of worlds, and this world is just like the next iteration. So Joe is in this world, this digital universe. Ash is in the real world, the world that like Hunter exists in, that has created this digital universe. And so Ash hacked into this world and eventually found Joe. So when she died in the world, when she was shot, she didn't actually die. Her just like avatar, her character, her like port into this world was killed. And so she wasn't able to get back for a while. She had to like find a new way in. And so she has just been kind of like messaging Joe. That's why he got all those weird messages, sending him a video. She's been trying to like get back into this world, but he can't, but she's not able to interact. And so Joe was wondering like, hey, like when I tried to fire the gun, it didn't go off. When I like fought the agent, something was helping me. And Ash is like, it wasn't me. I don't know who it was. So Ash is showing him pictures of, the information they have. And Joe recognizes this Oliver Cox, this person that helped Hunter create this world. And Oliver is the newsstand friend that Joe has, a friend that like is really nice to him. He sees him every day. So Joe gives Ash this information. Ash goes and meets Oliver, but she meets him in her world. She talks to him. Her plan is to preserve this world. She doesn't want to see this world go away. She loves Joe. She doesn't want Joe to go away. So she's going to hack in and preserve the data from this world. She wants to steal it from the system itself so that Joe can like stay alive if they ever destroy this world. So using Oliver's help, she hacks her way back into this world and sees Joe again. So now she's back in. She's with Joe. So Joe also goes to see Oliver in his world, in the simulated world. And Oliver says that Joe has data that he's carrying, like that book. When he opened it up, that's why he had that jolt. That was a download of this system at the time he opened the book into his memory. He must have a lot of memory. And so he needs to get this data out of this world so that this world can be preserved. And so Oliver says that there is a Easter egg in the code, like basically a way in the code to get that data out. And Hunter knows about this plan, so he's got to be very careful. And Joe's like, why doesn't Hunter just like deal with me? And basically Oliver's like, every time Hunter cheats, every time he does something that's like unnatural in this world, it creates an error because this is supposed to be a simulation of the real world. So the more kind of like random out there things that happen, it creates an error in the code in this world, and that leads to bad data. And the whole point of this is to get like good, accurate simulations. So if the more errors you have, the worse your simulation is going to be. So Hunter can't do that too much. He's trying not to do it too much, but he's aware, and so Joe has to be very careful. Oliver gives Joe a key so that he can get into this panel that will then allow him to upload the data. And so he has to now go find that place, get in, and upload this world data to the next world so that they can preserve it. Now, Joe is not the only one who's in danger. Apparently, Hunter has figured out how to get agents from this simulation world into like his world, because there are some agents that go to try to take out Ash, and they are wearing these like face mask things. I think they're like, essentially robots or simulations. It's unclear, but they are essentially working for Hunter, but they are working in Ash's world. And so they try to take out Ash. Ash has to fight her way out in an alley. She's able to beat up the one that goes after her, but as she's turning a corner, another hits her in the face and so knocks her out, and she wakes up in Hunter's office. Now, Hunter and Oliver meet up in the simulation. They kind of like dive in there, and they're talking. Oliver says that he's done with this world, that, he just wants to like let Hunter have it, and they then start to drink tea. And while Oliver's drinking tea, he starts to choke and feel, something going on. And we see in Ash's world / Oliver's world, there is an agent there with like the face mask thing, and he is killing Oliver. It seems like Hunter was able to send agents out to kill people in like his world. So I don't know if they're like mercenaries that he hired, but the fact that they have this face thing makes me think that they are like simulated people that are now in this world, either like robots that are using the code, or somehow he's able to manifest this code in this world. Somehow Hunter is able to get things to do his bidding, and so he is killing Oliver in Ash's world, which is then going to kill Oliver in this world. So Oliver gets killed, Oliver gets taken out, but Joe manages to get to this place where he has to upload the information. He opens this door, finds a panel, and when he gets there, he puts his hand on this like authorization thing, and that sucks the data out, or at least uploads it to somewhere. It must have like at least a 1 gig connection, maybe a 10 gig connection, because it goes really fast, and there must be a lot of data. But he's able to do it. He's able to upload this data, and so Joe gets the data out. Now, unfortunately for Joe, some agents are there too, so Joe has to now fight it out. And so Joe gets some weapons and equipment from this room and goes to take out the agents. He's able to take out these agents pretty easily. I mean, he has powerful weapons, he's got armor, but unfortunately for him, Hunter exists at a level above. He exists in this world. So he's able to then take Joe and pull him into like a virtual space where he can interact with him. So after Joe takes out these agents, he like poofs and goes into like essentially a virtual alley in the simulated world, and Hunter is there. He shoots him and then kind of starts torturing him, and Joe is in pain, and Hunter like picks him up, uses essentially like magic powers, mental powers, whatever you want to call it. Joe like is levitating and in pain and being tortured, and Hunter mentions like, don't worry about Ash, she's well taken care of. And this causes Joe to like fight back from this control, and so he is able to overcome the control. He comes back down and he pulls out a gun and shoots Hunter. So when he kills Hunter, that pulls him out of the simulation. And so now Hunter in his world is in pain. When you get hurt in this world, it's kind of like the Matrix. When you get hurt in the simulation, that causes pain in you, and because it has to like be accurate. And so when Hunter gets shot, he gets pulled out of the simulation, and he's back in his office with Ash there tied up. So Hunter is none too happy about being shot and being beaten in a simulation. So he said, it's time for a reboot, time to start this process over. And he starts the process of deleting the world. So Joe, kind of knowing what's happening as the world starts to like collapse around him, calls Ash. And when he calls Ash, they talk as the world starts falling apart. And Joe's just like, are you okay? Like, that's all that matters. He wants to make sure that she's okay. It's a very sweet scene. Their world is falling apart, and then the world gets deleted. So Ash and Hunter are now arguing in their world, in the real world, and they're arguing about Hunter deleting it. The whole kind of ethical question in this is like, you've got billions of simulated people, billions of AI that are based on real people, like just deleting them and experimenting on them. What are the ethics in that? And I, not sure on the full ethical question, but the idea is like, those are different lives. You can't just like delete them. That's like billions of lives getting deleted for, these tests. And so is that okay? Should they be allowed to live their simulated life out? That is one of the main questions here, and Ash is yelling at Hunter for that. So as Ash and Hunter are arguing, we hear Oliver's voice, and then there's this like globe on Hunter's desk that starts to like vibrate and move and rise, and then it disappears. And then we see Oliver on screen. And you're like, whoa, Oliver, like he was killed in this world. How is he there? And then Oliver tells Hunter that there are levels within levels and there are other worlds in this. So it seems like there are multiple layers to this whole world. We see Joe materialize in this world. Seems like he was like pulled from some sort of backup because he kind of like materializes in here. He has a gun. He is none too happy with Hunter. Hunter has done a lot of bad things. And so he shoots Hunter many times, and Hunter falls out the window. And then Joe and Ash hug because they're finally reunited in Ash's world. So now Joe is part of Ash's world somehow. We'll find out how very soon. So later, Ash and Joe meet up for coffee. It's a kind of a nice callback to how they were first meeting up. They used to originally meet in the like first couple scenes of this film. They met up for coffee. It was really sweet. Well, they meet up for coffee again now in Ash's world. So I guess murder isn't a crime in this level. Like he did kill Hunter, but I don't know. We'll see. It's fine. They are together. They're meeting up for coffee, and then Oliver shows up. And Oliver explains a little bit more about what's happening. So Oliver tells him that there are more levels and that he is from the level above this one. And so they're like, oh, so is that the real world? And he's like, I mean, who knows? Like there could be levels upon levels. All we know, we don't know how many universes there are. All we know is that I'm from the level above this. And so Oliver created this simulation and he created Hunter to try in this level to try to train like a new person, try to like train a person that could then build its own simulations. But Hunter was flawed. Hunter lacked empathy. But Oliver was able to find that empathy in Ash because she was from this level. She fell in love with someone in like the simulation and cared about him, cared about that world. And so she was able to find empathy. She was like a surprise, unknown variable. And so her and Joe's love restored Oliver's faith in the simulation, and found and his faith that the simulation could be caring and kind. And so kind of let him know that the code could get there. So Oliver, in order to help this, in order to help protect Ash, he was also protecting Joe. He's the one that was helping him. He's the one that prevented him from shooting himself. He's the one that like helped him fight off the agents. And also because Oliver is kind of like controlling the simulation, he was able to migrate Joe's code from the level below to the next level. And that's why Joe was able to like get up there. I don't know why Joe had to upload the data, but maybe that was part of it. Maybe, there's certain firewalls or certain protections in the simulation, so he couldn't easily pull it up. Maybe Joe had to upload that data first, and then that allowed Oliver to manifest him in the next level. But Oliver is the one that's been pulling these strings. So Oliver then goes on and says, like part of this experiment is that at some point, the tech in this world, the simulation world, will reach a point where it can create its own simulation. And so there could be levels upon levels. Who knows how many levels there are, so they should just kind of enjoy what this life has to offer. And so Joe and Ash hear this explanation. They're happy with where they currently are. They're happy with their life. They kiss. They seem happy. And so they are not worried about where they are in the level or what. They're just happy to be together. And then we see Oliver in his level. His office has like a very old school feel to it. Like there's books, there's lamps, there's big furniture, there's bourbon. It feels very analog. And so he is listening to music on a record. He gets a glass of bourbon. He drinks it. He's relaxing. And he says, "This we got right." So he is also taking his advice. He's enjoying what this level has to offer. And then he disappears. So did he get pulled up? Like, is there a level above that he is now getting pulled up into? We don't know. That is the end of the movie. That is levels. Like I said, I like this a lot. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was a really good like indie sci-fi film. So I definitely think you should check it out. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.